vote?
No, I don't. My kids all do.
Well, I finally this year, 25 years, when we go down to PAL, this boat runs on or on money, not thanks.
Yeah. A lot of, yeah, I don't know if I count too much on that.
Oh, wait.
How you doing?
My face.
My wife's sister just lives downhill from us, so kids can play together, we're excited.
What's up, bro? You on the agenda tonight?
Oh, yes, yeah. Doing the, condition use permit.
They're usually pretty easy.
Okay.
Good.
Brandon Jones, nice to meet you as well.
Hey, how are you?
Be sitting here. Yes, you should.
I'll just hold it against you, I'm not.
Just,
Right?
I'm just embarrassed to do it.
Tim?
My face feels like.
I know, Tim. Tim?
I tried.
I know. How you doing?
Hear me.
Been doing too much horseback riding in my life.
I haven't done any. No, those things are getting plenty fat.
Hey, Anders, can I ask you a question? I'm not connected to the internet. Is it the Lindon City internal?
Okay, I think it.
Or is it a guest? I always have been before, but for some reason I'm not tonight.
They get to see my best side. Try guest and see what happens.
Well, luckily,
Do you have a passport?
no, I don't. Or not that I remember, because it's been a long time since I haven't been able to just get in.
State's setting a date.
Well, I guess I can try one that I use sometimes.
I think they said if certain,
Password.
if we continue to hit these
That, no. So
benchmarks that we're hitting.
I'm
So I was gonna
sure I've
ask
been on
you,
before. We went on
um,
a trip and I logged into a motel's
did the budget
Wi-Fi, but
resolution
that
ever get
shouldn't,
passed so that we can go
would that
down?
have?
If I
Okay,
wanted
now-
to use the city building, can I
One
now?
thing I'm okay on is because I wanted to study this when we were traveling,
You've always been able to.
I
Someone
did.
just screwed up.
and do it
Oh,
over,
okay.
downloaded
you
it
get
as a
the swim
PDF, so I
passes.
do have
Get
access
the
that
building, I don't
way.
know how many
Okay,
times
that
a year. You have
Okay.
the
But
same
another
better as
time,
we do.
but
That's
another
actually
time,
Okay, I just sort of had to go through like a budget
on
resolution.
the internet, having to.
yeah.
We just
Download
reiterated
it, then
at the
there's
meeting.
no lag
Hello?
for the internet.
Hello?
We did have our
Yeah.
first
So
budget.
that's actually the
plenty,
better
yeah.
way to do it.
Because it, like I
But
read
I've
the
always
last
been able to
budget,
get in this way too.
Yeah.
it says city council, it doesn't say
You have to
planning
wait
commission, but.
for,
Well,
so
and that's what I
you have to
actually
wait
called
for
them. I
it to
said,
load.
something's not
When
right.
you're just using the internet.
Okay,
It's just an
well,
oversight.
let's do it this way then, but,
Yeah,
Resolution that night if we just
but
I don't know what.
I've
the
always
password
been
is.
able to get in before,
Yeah, that'd be
that's
fine.
something
I'm
to
sorry.
worry
Yeah, I
about.
think it must have blocked you off, but
Yeah,
I don't know what the password is, but.
well, I'm,
If I go down there,
I'm
they're not gonna
okay
look at me
tonight.
funny, right?
Yeah,
But-
we'll have to be.
Oh, no, no, not at all.
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can,
Hey
and
Kathy,
I can download it from home.
can you hear me?
Okay, how many people we have here?
Kathy?
Hey, Kat. The.
Okay,
Is the audio not working?
Scott, will you say our opening prayer?
Sure.
Person I had down isn't here, so.
What's going on?
And,
Sorry, I'm gonna need a few more minutes. I can't get the microphone to work.
okay, I was gonna say, Steve, will you say the pledge?
Yes, I'd be happy to.
Now our others will probably come. Oh, there's Renee. We're just waiting for a minute for him, for Mike to get his microphone working.
Sorry, I
drive down from Park City, so it takes me a minute. What are you doing up there?
The microphone.
Are you playing up there, or what are you doing? Renee, are you playing up there, or what are you doing? What are you doing in Park City?
I work up at the St. Regis in Deer Valley.
Okay.
There's a private club up there, and I concierge up there.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty fun.
When did you start doing that?
My third season.
Okay.
Hey Kathy, can you hear us? Or Noah?
Typically
Noah, can you
easily
hear us?
impressed, or?
Yes, I can hear you, Mike.
Okay, thank you. Hey Tim,
He's easily impressed. That's why I like you. Yeah, I'm impressed.
Tim, if you don't mind, I'm gonna have you, under that section in the city code 17.57.050 about developing within a 50-foot slope. If I can have you address that technical stuff in that report, in your report.
Uh-oh, can't hear him.
Here. We didn't hear you, Tim. Well, we'll figure it out. Tim, can you hear us? We just can't hear you. Can you try? Well, he wasn't muted before.
He is muted.
No. Kathy, we can hear you, right?
Yes, can you hear me, Mike?
Yeah. Noah, can we hear you?
Yep.
Huh.
That's weird.
Speaker on his end.
Well, let's start and we can work
You
it
go
out as
ahead.
we go.
Okay. We'd like to welcome you to our Planning Commission meeting this evening. This is Planning Commission meeting for February 23rd, 2021. This meeting is being recorded, and we're glad to have you residents here with us, and Councilman Bancheri. Thank you for being here. We're going to begin our meeting this evening with an opening prayer from Commissioner Thompson, and then a pledge of allegiance from Commissioner Johnson.
Our dear Heavenly Father, as we come before thee this evening as a planning commission, we're so grateful for the opportunity to meet and the opportunity we have to work with the city. We're so grateful for the city of Lindon and the opportunity we have to work in such a beautiful place. Now, as we go through this meeting this evening, we ask that Thy Spirit may be with us, that we may be able to make the proper choices for the city, both for the city and the citizens, and that we may do Thy will. We're grateful for all of our many blessings, and we say these things in Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please rise. Repeat the pledge with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to have an audible roll call of the commissioners. Sharon Call, here. Mike Marchbanks isn't with us yet. He may be coming. Jared Showers.
Here.
Rob Callis.
Here.
Steve Johnson.
Here.
Scott Thompson.
Here.
And Renee Tribe.
Here.
Okay. Okay, and the commissioners have received the minutes ahead of time, had a chance to review those. Do any of you have changes or corrections to the minutes? No. They look great to me. Anyone else? Okay, do I have a motion for approval of the minutes?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a time for public comment. This would be for any items that are not already on the agenda for this evening. Is there anyone here for that purpose? Okay. Item number 4, this is a plat amendment. This is for Pear Tree Estates, Plat B, at 134 West 600 North. Our applicant is Jason Taylor. Okay, if you'd like to come up to the front, that would be great. There should be a place for you to sign there. And our presenting staff is Anders Bake. If you want to go ahead.
All right. So this is a plat amendment application for the Pear Tree Estates Plat B. This property is located at 134 West, 600 North. It's at the intersection of 600 North and 95 West. And the purpose of this plat amendment is to combine a existing lot and parcel into one lot. So I'll go to the proposed plat to kind of explain this. So in 2015, the Lexington Cove plat was created, which put a road through this lot 4 of the Pear Tree Estates that were properties along 600 North. It put this road through to provide access for these 6 lots that were created. And there were 2 remnant parcels that were left over on either side of the road, both about 25 feet wide. And so this proposed plat amendment would be combining the lot 3 of the Pear Tree Estates plat with the parcel A in the Lexington Cove plat. And you can see this is the proposed plat, which creates this combined lot, which will be called Lot 1 in the Pear Tree Estates Plat B subdivision. So So the property is in the residential R120 zone. It's surrounded by other single-family residential properties. And the city code requires that this plat amendment be approved by the City Planning Commission. Mr. Taylor, the applicant, owns both the lot and the parcel. And so combining these will create one buildable lot that will have normal building setback requirements to build a single-family home on the lot. For the proposed plat meets all the subdivision and lot requirements for a single-family home or a R120 lot. As explained on this table, this includes lot frontage, easements, lot shape, and lot size. And the city engineer is reviewing the plat and would give final approval if the Planning Commission approves the plat. So the proposed motion for this application is I move to approve, deny, or continue the applicant's request for plat amendment approval of the Pear Tree Estates Plat B subdivision with the following conditions. 1, the applicant will continue to work with city staff to make all technical corrections as necessary to the plat prior to recording. 2, prior to plat recording, The applicant will update the final plat Mylar to include notarized signatures of owner's consent to dedication and obtain signatures of all entities indicated on the subdivision plat attached here too, and 3, all items of the staff report. So does the commission have any questions for me?
The only question I'd have, Anders, is are we leaving the one on the other side just a blank parcel?
Yeah, we spoke with the property owner for that parcel, and they wanted to keep it the way it was. The other property next to it is a different owner, and so there wasn't, I guess, a desire to combine that for now, but it's just a non-buildable parcel.
Little parcel.
Well, as I look at that, it meets all the requirements. So I don't have any other questions. Do
No, it
any
looks
of you?
good, looks straightforward to me. I would just like one of your trees to be planted in my yard.
Okay, when we start, you come get one.
How old are the trees?
I don't know how, I mean, they're fully mature, there's pears and apples and.
Really?
We'll keep some of them. There's about 80 trees. I know it's kind of a travesty to cut it down, but we'll keep probably about 24 of the trees in the back.
Huh? So you'll have an orchard of your own
A
then?
little bit, yeah. Hopefully the neighbors enjoy apples.
Well, I don't see any questions on it. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I move to approve the applicant's request for plat amendment approval of the Pear Tree Estates Plat B subdivision with the following conditions 1 through 3 that are listed on the staff report.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Okay, Renee?
Yep.
Yeah,
Whatever.
okay. A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous. That looks like a really nice lot to build a home on.
Yeah, we're excited.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming in.
You bet.
Okay, the next item on our agenda, this is item number 5, hillside exemption or relief approval. This is for HSB 10 LLC 608 North at 608 North 800 East. And I just have the applicant as HSB 10 LLC. Brandon Jones. Well, I assumed that because the letter was signed with that. Okay, and our presenting staff is Michael Florence. And I had to come in this afternoon and have Mike simplify this for me to understand it all. This is kind of a complex lot. But go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. So, oops. Go through this real quick. So this is part of the Meadows at Bald Mountain subdivision plat. It was recorded in 2001. Back in, let's see, when was it? 2016. This is a lot we're talking about, lot number 7 right here. Back in 2016, the Planning Commission went through this same process and gave an exemption on the side yard setbacks. You can see the plat required 20-foot side yard setbacks. The commission went through this process, reviewed a geotechnical report at that time and reduced those side yard setbacks to 10 feet. So this property, it's not unusual, this is the second time for this property to go through this process, but I think as we've gotten into more detail about development, we've reviewed that with our hillside overlay ordinance and figured out what needs to be accomplished to be able to make this a building site. So let me minimize that a little bit more. So under the hillside ordinance, any lot that has an average slope greater than 20% has to meet the hillside requirements of the ordinance. The This property exceeds that, and there's a couple exemptions or relief that they're asking for on two city codes, which is allowed in our ordinance. So just to let me go through the ordinance really quick. Just so you're aware, Noah Gordon, he's helped us review this. He's our city engineer. He's on the Zoom call, as well as Tim Mitchell, the geotechnical engineer that put the report together. So as you can see under 1757-030, you can ask, an applicant can request an exemption or relief. They need to identify what they're asking for, which Mr. Jones has done in his letter, as also in the geotechnical report. They have to provide a site plan. They show the pre-development contours at with areas 30 and 40% slope shown. And then there's these items that they need to provide in the report. The site plan, detailed analysis and discussion of possible impacts of the applicant's proposal on slope stability, erosion, drainage, and other relevant engineering considerations. Specific measures recommended by the geotechnical engineer to mitigate the impacts of the proposal. The geotechnical engineer as to the effect of the applicant's proposal on the health, safety, and welfare of the general public and nearby residents, and on safety of property improvements in the area. And then when the Planning Commission considers your exemption or relief, you may grant the request exemption or relief if the city engineer reviews the geotechnical engineer's report and takes no exception to it, and the Planning Commission finds that granting the requested exemption or exemptions or relief will not be injurious to the health, safety, and welfare of the general public or nearby residents, will not create an undue hazard to property and improvements, and will be consistent with the purpose of this chapter and identified in section 1757-10. So the two main points that are being requested for relief or exemption is, one, no development shall be allowed on or within 50 feet slopes in excess of 40%, areas subject to landsliding or other high hazard geological areas as determined by the soils report or geology report produced pursuant to the requirements of this chapter. So if we go to here's some pictures of the property that are in your staff report. It's one of the last remaining, we've only got a couple left in the city that will even go through this process. So let me go down to so here's our site plan. These over here. The front yard setback will meet that 30-foot setback requirement. You can see the proposed home here. So this is our slope analysis that was completed. You can see in the light blue area, this is where the home will be located. It's on a slope between 20 and 30%. The purple is 30 to 40%, and the red is greater than 40%. So the reason why we're here tonight is where this home will be sited here on the property. It would need to have a 50-foot setback from a 40% slope, and you can see this 40% slope right here would be in the backyard, basically. So what the applicant is proposing to do is to regrade the site so that has a building pad with a 50-foot setback, and then regrade this slope area to 30%, so it's less than that 40%, so they can meet the setback requirements. This cross section is a good example here. So this will be the pad site for the home. You'll have a 55-foot setback. The line here is the natural grade of the property currently. So you'll have this 55-foot setback here with between a 2 and 8% grade, and then the rest of the property will be graded to that 30%. Brandon and Tim, please jump in if I'm saying anything that I shouldn't be.
No, you're nailing it.
That's Because he had to explain it to me this afternoon.
So they'll be able to meet that 50-foot setback, which meets that first, or, qualifies for that first exemption or relief requirement. Tim, would you like to add anything else?
No, I guess, can you hear me first?
So I missed that.
Yes, we can hear you, Tim.
Okay, no, sounds good so far.
Okay, Noah, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I would just like to, if you go back to those pictures of the site,
Yes.
as Mike pointed out, this is one of the very few lots left in the city that this ordinance will really pertain to. And one of the things that the applicant, Brandon Jones, pointed out to us, which if he's okay with me pointing this out, it appears that the owners, maybe from the lots on both sides, when they did the excavation for their lots,
Shows
maybe did some additional grading onto this site. You can see that kind of rock retaining wall on the neighbor to the north. And then they did some terraced rock work on this lot that would be removed actually with this regrading, and actually might make it even more stable than it presently is, and kind of help grade things between the lots to the north and the south. So the proposed grading should actually make things better. And I'd like to point out, obviously, you can see those two, they're basically power poles there in the front yard. It makes this lot a little difficult to build on, where it doesn't really allow a lot of front yard with those poles there. So I think that's one of the main reasons that the applicant would like to have some additional kind of flat area to have a yard in the back.
Thank you, Noah.
You bet.
I think just a couple things to highlight under this section in the report. Let's see, it says, landslide deposits were not observed or mentioned in the referencing mapping that they looked at in their analysis, and no other geological hazards appear to be present. They also looked at groundwater. They went down 15 feet and did not see any issues with that as well. The second item is no development shall be permitted on property having an average slope in excess of 30%. If we look from the grading plan, go to that real quick. So so this will be that the backyard, it'll be relatively flat, between 2 and 8%, and then the 30% will be in this area here, then it flattens out again up on top. So looking at that, the geotechnical engineer had discussed that we would be less than that 30% or 30% or less to meet the requirements in the ordinance. Any items, Noah or Tim, on that section?
I don't have any.
Noah, do you have anything?
I don't think so. I just think we appreciate the geotechnical engineer. And I'm a civil engineer. I'm not a geotechnical engineer specifically, so we're grateful for the letter from the geotechnical engineer, and would like to point out, as far as their recommendations and their opinion does bear quite a bit of weight on developments like this.
So real quick, the geotechnical engineer gave recommendations to mitigate the impacts of the proposal. One, all vegetation disturbance above elevation 4952 feet of 52 feet should be repaired as soon as possible to limit surface erosion of the slope. Erosion control methods or vegetation should be in place around the residence shortly after exterior construction is completed. The slope should be vegetated with drought-resistant plants with proper vegetation on the modified slope installed as soon as possible. The long-term effects of erosion should be minimal. Surface water ponding and storage should be away from the top and bottom of the slope, and sprinklers should not be placed on the face of the hill with a slope of 30% grade or more. Drip irrigation is recommended on any slopes. An erosion control plan has been provided by Northern Engineering, which is attached to this report. Slope modifications should take place during the dry times of the year, should reseeding / planting as soon as possible, and nothing other than drip irrigation should be installed. It should be clearly understood that slope movements or even failures can occur if the slope is undermined or the slope soils become saturated. The property owner and the owner's representative should be made aware of this risk should these or other conditions occur that should saturate or erode, undermine the soils. For safety of slope stability during construction and short-term, all excavations exceeding 4 feet below the existing site grade should follow recommendations provided by OSHA for slope and braced excavations. With that, the last thing, the geotechnical engineer's opinion as the effects of the applicant's proposal on the health, safety, and welfare of general public and nearby residents, and on the safety of the property and improvements in the area. Based on the proposed construction and modifications that have been addressed, the effects of this proposal appears to be minimal to the health, safety, and welfare of the general public and nearby residents, and on the safety of property and improvements in the area. The proposed slope modifications as analyzed in static and seismic conditions appears to be stable, and the provided landscape plan does follow the recommended guidelines. Proposed drip irrigation is acceptable as shown on the landscape plan. One thing I noted is a condition in the staff report was we probably need to modify that landscape plan just a little bit to make sure it's in compliance with the original 2001 subdivision plat. So with that, I have, let me go back. Where did I put it? So, sorry, I updated the conditions a little bit. I forgot, I misnumbered those. And so what I did was I just used the language out of the ordinance for your motion. It says the Planning Commission finds that granting the requested exemptions or relief will not be injurious to the health, safety, and welfare of the general public or nearby residents, will not create an undue hazard to property improvements, and will be consistent with the purposes of this chapter identified in 175710. And moves to approve, deny, or continue the applicant's request for approval of a hillside exemption or relief on Lot 7 of the Meadows at Bald Mountain Subdivision Plat A in relation to Section 175750 and 40, and as found in the Lindon City Code with following conditions. The site will be constructed as per the specific measures recommended by the geotechnical engineer to mitigate the impacts of the proposal, as found in the attached geotechnical report. The site will be graded as per the approved grading plans. A soils report be submitted to the building with the building plans for review by the Lindon City building official. All mitigation recommendations be implemented. The grading and drainage plan be constructed as approved by the Lindon City engineer. Prior to building permit being issued, the landscape plan be updated to meet the vegetation type and distance requirements as established by slope percentages on the Meadows at Bald Mountain plat. The development will meet relevant building site requirements as found in 7057 and all items of the staff report. So with that, myself, Mr. Jones, and Noah and Mr. Mitchell will be glad to answer any questions that you have.
It appears that from the floor level of the proposed home site, in the backyard there, it looks like an excavation of anywhere from 8 to 9 feet of soil. Is that?
Yes, so the basement will be a full-size basement.
Well, I mean, actually just from the floor level of the home in the backyard, it looks like you're removing about 8 feet.
That is correct. Yeah, if I can't remove that dirt, it would basically be up against the house.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Has there been, and maybe the engineers can respond to this, but has there been any consideration given? It looks like there could be a lot of runoff even up above where that flattens out. Is there any comment on that as far as drainage or flooding that home in the future from slope runoff? Or is the city have any responsibility or liability there, or any waiver that needs to be considered?
This afternoon.
Noah, do you want to answer that question?
believe the question was with the proposed grading, if there is any concern with drainage coming back, and are you speaking to concerns with this house in particular, or are you talking about the neighbor potentially to the south?
No, this house. I mean, could there be runoff from the hills above that comes down and floods this home from the slope above the backyard and above that?
As you see on there, there is proposed grading away from the house that goes down on this cross section. If you were looking from left to right, so the low spot is actually not against the house itself. It is out there, you know, away, say 20 feet or so, to a lower spot in the yard, very similar to what would happen on any other yard. The biggest concern would not be runoff from that hillside. It would be, as was pointed out in the geotechnical report, that we want to make sure that that grading is done at a time when it's dry, because, and we actually worked with the geotechnical engineer, as well as the homeowner and the landscape architect. They originally showed some additional plantings up there and maybe some traditional irrigation sprinkler systems, which would be problematic. We wouldn't want that hillside to let loose until the vegetation is established. And the vegetation they're now showing on there would only use drip irrigation. So I'm not as concerned about just typical runoff from the hillside. I mean, every lot along there would be dealing with that same runoff. It really would be the concern of making sure the vegetation gets established. So the hillside itself does not end up in the backyard.
I just can remember, you know, in Bountiful and North Salt Lake and a few areas where the cities have been pointed at and said, why did you approve something? You're responsible for this damage. Is there any kind of a waiver that the homeowner has to sign releasing the city from any obligation like that?
There's not a waiver, but our ordinance requires that we record those conditions that you're approving onto the title of the property. So that would hopefully be caught in any type of title search.
I noticed too on the engineer, the geotechnical engineer's report, that after he put his recommendations, they also put almost a disclaimer saying, you know, we're only saying that these three things are the things we are approving, but we're not saying anything about the foundation or the drainage or the floor design and construction, the backfill, the compaction requirements against the foundation, the mass grading of the site, or any aspect of the building. So to me, it sounds like unless all of those things are done just right, there could be a risk with that.
And that was one of the reasons why for the condition of the soils report as part of the building plans. And
Sharon, it looks to me like the soils report's pretty clear and it's pretty straightforward and it covers a lot of things. It's just that bullet number 5 when it says it should be clearly understood that slope movements or even failure can occur if the slope is undermined and the soils become saturated. I mean, what's the likelihood of that occurring? Is that just every 100-year rainstorm, or is that, you know, what's the likelihood of that occurring? Or is this just a statement by the engineers that sort of, sometimes it makes statements for liability reasons? I mean, is it how likely is that to occur?
I don't know that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what, I mean, that was the only negative statement in the whole thing.
No, they're just saying, you know, when I mentioned those other things, they're just saying, you know, we feel good about all these things that we're responsible for, but there's a lot of other issues that have to be made, you know, if it's not done right, you know, there could be but you know that, you know all those risks, don't you?
I do. I'm in construction. This is what I do for a living. So I mean, I've had the house engineered. You know, the plans were drawn by a professional architect. The house is engineered by a professional engineer. So the things with the foundation and the backfill, everything will be done according to industry standards. you know, and this is one that we're keeping for ourselves. This is where we want to live. This is
You're
where we
gonna
wanna
live
be.
there?
And so, I don't want any of those things to happen as well. So I'm
No.
gonna do it as best, you know, to my best ability as I can.
Sure. I just think Rob's question was, does the city have a liability on if some of those things happen?
There's a lot of houses right up against that hillside.
That's right,
that
there
have
are,
this-
yeah, I live right close to that, so,
Did the house to the north of you
Just across
have to go
400
through
north.
this as well?
I don't believe the house to the north did. I was looking through the plat, and I believe the only two lots in the area that were under the hillside ordinance were, mine and the one to the south.
Mhm.
And so I know he has horses next to me, and I don't know what
Right.
he's had approved or not, but, I believe they were the only two in that area that had that ordinance.
how large is your lot altogether?
.623 of an acre.
Okay, so well over a half acre, okay. And those power poles that are up in the back, I mean, those will just
Yeah,
have to be
they're just in the
left.
front, and, you know,
Yeah.
we fell in love with the area.
Right,
My in-laws live a couple streets down, so we're excited to be in the area, and that was one of those things where we kind of were like, it's not pretty, but we can live with it.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So,
It is a pretty area,
yeah, we love it.
yeah,
We've been trying to get this thing going since 2011.
really,
We've had the lot since then, and we've kind of, it hasn't been the right time to build, we haven't had the money, and we're finally in a spot now where, you know, we have 3 kids, we're looking to plant, you know, set roots and just kind of make this our home.
uh-huh,
So we're
Okay.
excited.
okay. Okay, any other questions?
I don't have any other than the fact that I just think that we need to make sure that the city isn't responsible if there's any issues up there with slope and runoff and things like that.
If that's me signing a waiver, I'll sign a waiver.
I'll discuss that with Brian tomorrow morning, our city attorney, and just see what his recommendation is.
You know, that's a lot of the reason these hillside ordinances, they started coming into play in the early 80s up in Salt Lake. I built for 30 years on hillside lots, and these new ordinances have made people go through all the processes to really think through things. Up in Farmington, a lot of those homes were built before they were even doing serious geotechnical stuff, didn't realize they were building on unstable soil. And so I think, you know, I think everything looks good to me if everything's followed.
Well, and I'm sure there's inspections all along the way, so. I don't have other questions. I think Mike answered a lot of my questions this afternoon as far as understanding exactly how you're doing the grades and landscaping. I think there are a couple of trees or something that you have to change or
Yeah, we'll
something.
probably have to lose a couple of them, which is great. We're fine with whatever, so.
Yeah, okay.
Like I said, we're just excited to
Yeah.
start and get into a home, so.
Yeah, it's a beautiful area,
we like to do it.
yeah. Okay, well, if there aren't any other questions, do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion. I move that we approve the applicant's request for approval of a hillside exemption or relief on Lot 7 of the Meadows at Bald Mountain Subdivision Plat A in relation to Section 17.57.050 and 17.57.040, and as found in the Lindon City Zone Code with the following conditions, items 1 through 8.
Okay, I have a motion for approval. Do I have a second on the motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous.
Sharon, who seconded?
Jared
Was it Jared?
Showers did. Commissioner Showers. Okay? Well, thank you so much. It'll be fun to watch your,
I'm excited to get going.
like I said, I don't live far from there. And, and it'll be fun to drive by there and see the progress.
Thank you, we're excited. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Thank you.
Good luck. Okay. The next item on our agenda is item number 6. This is the conditional use permit for Rocco's Tire Service at 732 North State Street. And the applicant, I've got Ronald Mann. Is that you? Uh-huh. And presenting staff is Anders Bake. I'll let you go ahead.
Thank you. So, as Commissioner Call said, this is a application for a conditional use permit. This application is for Mr. Mann to operate an automobile, tire, lube, and tune-up business, and for the commission to review that application and any conditions to mitigate the impacts of that use. The proposed business is located in the general commercial zone along State Street. It's surrounded by mostly other commercial businesses, except for directly behind this property is Pleasant Grove residential zone that you can see on the small map on the staff report. And so the business or the standard land use table states that any business doing automobile, tire, lube, and tune-up in the general commercial zone receive a conditional use permit from the Planning Commission. So the business will be using a portion of the existing building that's on the property. And I'll go to some pictures here. So the building is, it has 2 overhead doors on the front along State Street with a garage type area in the building. So it's kind of intended for use similar to what the applicant is proposing to do in that building. It's one of 2 units in the building. And so it makes sense to be in this area. The fence, there's a building and then a kind of a lot behind, or an area behind the building for parking. And that area is fenced off with a masonry wall along the north end of the property, which borders the Arctic Circle lot. And then you can kind of see from this picture, the east property line has a chain link fence with privacy slats. And that's what's separating this property from the residential property in Pleasant Grove. So the commercial code states that it requires a 7-foot masonry or concrete fence along any property line between non-residential and development and a residential use. The existing fencing is already there, but if the Planning Commission determines that maybe a different type of fencing is necessary, then that can be a proposed condition for this conditional use permit. The city code allows for the commission to approve other type of fencing other than the masonry fence if it makes the following findings, and I'll go to that. So these are the findings listed in the city code that the Planning Commission would have to make to approve of an alternative fencing. And so those are: A, the proposed fence provides an adequate buffer for the adjoining residential use. B, the appearance of the fence will not detract from the residential use and/or the non-residential use of the property. And then C, the proposed fencing will shield the residential use from noise, storage, traffic, or any other characteristics of the non-residential use that are incompatible with residential uses. Something to note is a condition that we have in the proposed motion is that any work done will be done indoors, and then that there's no storage of vehicles or parts permitted outdoors. For parking, there's a large parking area that has 15 stalls available, which will be adequate for this use. And let me see. And then the applicant has also provided a business description that includes hours of operation, and then a liquid waste storage and management plan, and a site plan as well, which are all attached to this report. So I'll go to the proposed motion. So that is, I move to approve, deny, or continue the applicant's request for a conditional use permit to use the property located at 732 North State Street for an automobile tire, lube, and tune-up business with the following conditions. 1, no automobiles or automobile parts will be stored outside of the building. 2, all work will be performed within the building. 3, the business operation will be limited to vehicle detailing, lube, and tire changes. 4, hours of operation will be from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. 5, the applicant will comply with all of the commercial zone requirements found in section 17.48 of the Lindon City Code. And 6, all items of the staff report. So does the commission have any questions for me or the applicant?
Just a couple of comments. Number 2, I believe it should be within the building, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think that was a typo on my part.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, are you, Mr. Mann, are you leasing the space?
Yeah. So it's it'd be a year lease.
With respect to the fencing, I mean, I think that it should have a concrete fence, but I don't think it should be Mr. Mann's responsibility. I think it should be the property owner, and maybe that's something we ought to address with him. I don't think that I would hold this up for that, my personal opinion, but maybe it should be addressed with the property owner that it's in violation. And then one other comment is it really necessary to limit him to 5 o'clock?
It is not. So, but what we do is we ask the owner what their hours of operation are, and then that's what we put in the conditional use permit.
5 o'clock in the summer is pretty darn early.
Yeah. So we go off of what they tell us, what their hours. If Mr. Mann wants to propose something different with the commission, then that would be just fine.
Yeah, I mean, I would say most of the time I'm out by 5. I have to usually leave to grab the kids from their activities anyways. Most of my work has been like for a dealership and not for the public, and so it's easy for me to just get things going. But there are the times that like, oh, I can't stop what I'm doing. I'm like right in the middle, or so. There might be the occasional, yes, I might be running late and working till around, like 6 or 7. But
Are those
usually
public hours though, or can he be in the shop finishing up a job?
Yeah, I think you just want to be sensitive of the next door residential.
Correct.
So 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock is more than reasonable. If that's something you want to modify that condition.
But if he locks his front door and doesn't have anybody coming in after 5
most of his
o'clock.
work is to the public. It's mostly for Planet R.
But it is a good point, because 5 o'clock seems early.
Yeah, 6 or 7 sounds
if we
a little
said
bit more.
6, would you feel better about that?
Well, I'm fine with 5, it's just up to him.
I mean, I just don't.
if it's okay to make it a little bit longer than that, I'd be.
It's 6, would that?
6 would be fine. Yeah. 7.
I'd go 7, just.
Just in case, the rare case, yeah.
The other one on number 3, I'd rather have it say, like under the motion, how it says 732 North State Street for automobile tire lube and tune-up. I'd modify 3 to say the business operation will be limited to automobile tire lube and tune-up. Because he is doing tune-up there as well. I think that's just a miss.
You know, I'm a little surprised that we're needing to do this. Is it because there was a discontinued use of automotive there? Because originally that's
Dennis's old place.
Yeah, that's,
That, whatever, you know, there was no business license there, any previous conditional use permit would have expired, so that it's just going through.
So,
the
Rob,
process
that
of-
shows that they do expire eventually.
I've always thought they carried with the building.
No, they do expire if by inactivity.
This is the CrossFit
Yeah,
place.
the
isn't it?
CrossFit's been the most recent thing in there,
Oh,
but
okay.
for years it was automotive, serious automotive.
That's why it has the garage doors.
Yeah. But remind me, in the backyard there, in the back of the building, where you're talking about the fence, isn't there a pretty good grade change to where you're down?
It's a slight, there's a slight grade.
Yeah, and you would, you don't have any pictures of that back.
Yeah, you can see it pretty good. That'd be my only hesitation about
Right there, yeah, you kind of see there's a little bit of grade.
a different type of fence is because of that.
One of my questions is, what kind of condition are the privacy slats in? Because those can get really broken up and looking pretty trashy if they're not taken care of. And that would be a question I would have too. I think if we don't require, and I don't think we should require Mr. Mann to put in one of the masonry fences, but if those privacy slats aren't being kept up. And so I think we need to look at that too, as far as for the residents.
Did you say there was another tenant in the building? You're the second tenant in the
Yeah,
building?
so, on the north building is where I'm at, where those two big doors are, and then the south is where,
Oh, yeah, you got it
the
right.
owners, they run their business, scrapbooking, business.
Right.
That's the owner of the
And that's
property.
the owner
of the property, yeah.
Oh, okay, not even, yeah, that's, to me, that was the only thing, just that fencing, but like I say, I don't think it, like everybody else has said, I don't think it's your responsibility, I think it's the property owners.
What do we do on that though, as far as approaching the property owner on that?
I think Mr.
If they're
Mann
in
can make a
violation?
I think Mr. Mann can make a connection. We can meet with the property owner and see if there's any slats that need to be replaced. And
But if we're gonna require the property owner to eventually put a masonry fence in there?
About requiring the masonry
I
wall.
would too. I think if we talked to Mr. Hawes, he'd probably say it'd be grandfathered since it's been that way forever.
And that may be
I
the
mean,
case.
that's the approach I would take if I was.
Okay.
And it's,
Someone else just brought that up, I think Rob, that he felt like it was out of compliance. I do think it's okay, though, to require the owner to make sure those slats are maintained.
Yeah,
That's inexpensive.
that's the least we can do, I think.
and I don't know, does it matter that it's Pleasant Grove behind it? Does our Lindon ordinance is designed to protect Lindon? I mean, I don't,
Residential.
so I don't know, like I said, I think it would be grandfathered. I think it's been
Even
there.
though I would like to get back at him about the trash place they put behind
Yeah.
north of 700 North and only required a chain link fence.
Absolutely.
Bigger question, Commissioner Marchbanks, is how did that become Pleasant Grove?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Behind there.
It was sewer and water
yeah,
when it was built.
who could serve it, and
When it was built, even half that street's still in Pleasant Grove. When the old Pebble Creek division it was actually Pleasant Grove, and then when they put that road through, it became part of Lindon, so. Utilities and stuff made that.
Hey, so do we need to make that one of the conditions on the privacy slats, or staff can just take care of that?
I think we can just take care of that.
Well, and whose
Okay.
fence is it? Is it the Pleasant Grove development, or is it this development?
Yeah,
I wanna say it was Jared's, but just cause he's done some work, to that area, to the fence and stuff like that, so but I don't know, I'll probably have to approach him and ask him.
Yeah, let us look into that and we can see what.
It could be a joint fence that landowners on both sides pitched in on even back when it happened.
I would bet that the subdivision.
Put it in?
The multifamily subdivision put it in.
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess staff will have to figure out, you know, what the situation is on the fence. Okay. So, other than, on the conditions, other than changing the hours from 9 to 7, we can just go ahead and do that, can't we?
And then I would modify number 3 to say automobile, tire, lube, and tune-up.
Okay, and I've got that written down.
And then
Okay.
the spelling on
And
it.
then detailing, I'd add detailing on there as well.
Detailing lube, tire changes, and tune-up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really, all you gotta add is the tune-up part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The others there. Okay, any other questions, or are we ready for a motion? Okay, who would like to make a motion?
I'll go ahead.
Okay,
I move to approve the applicant's request for conditional use permit to use the property located at 732 North State Street for an automobile tire, lube, and tune-up and detailing business with the following conditions. 1, no automobiles or automobile parts will be stored outside the building. 2, all work will be performed within the building. 3, the business operation will be limited to vehicle detailing, lube, tire changes, and tune-ups. The hours of operation will be from 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. The applicant will comply with all the commercial zone requirements found in section 17.48 of the Lindon City Code and all items of the staff report.
okay.
I second that motion.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous, and we'll look forward to seeing your business there.
Well, thank you guys very much for your time.
Yeah, and thank you. Renee, do you want to be the cookie passer tonight? You want to be the cookie passer tonight? Okay, the next item, go ahead. Oh, are we okay?
Yep.
The next item on our agenda is the planning commissioner's reports. Anyone have anything they want to bring up this evening? Okay, we've got to get our cookies first.
So, Mike, I had someone ask me that they had heard that the mayor's property on the corner there on State Street, where the old mercantile used to be, was under contract, or there might be something moving there. They just, I hadn't heard anything. I don't know if there's any movement
It's
there.
probably been about 4 or 5 months since I heard that someone was looking at it, but I haven't heard anything as of recently.
Building that fell down on that corner by across from
Oh,
the
yeah?
pizza factory, where the old Colomore property was.
It's still being cleaned up. Yeah. Okay, anyone else? And then we'll let Mike go ahead.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you have other things, but a couple of things I would hope you'd bring up. Maybe next week, as far as the Norton property, that's going to be on our agenda.
Well, yeah, let me run through the potential agenda for next time.
Okay.
95% sure the Norton property will be on there for next time. I was sending some emails back and forth today just to confirm that.
Okay.
But the Lindon Nursery, they want to move a barn in the back up to closer to State Street and do some improvements to the site up front in preparation for the housing to go in the back. Scott's Miracle Grow will also be adding a new large shed to their property, and then a towing business in the light industrial zone. So those are the 4 items we're looking at right now.
And that's for March 9th?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Lindon Nursery's bringing a barn from
Yeah,
in
let me
back,
go to Google Maps real quick. Come on. They've got this red barn right here.
Yeah.
Val Gartson's gonna relocate that to this spot right here. And then they're gonna put hay in it and things like that for people to pick up. And then they've already moved this silo right here up front. And then these bins right here, they're gonna relocate over against this wall. So, but really, the only thing under our ordinance you're looking at is the barn, because what our ordinance says is for amended site plans, you're looking at anything over 1,000 square feet, and that barn's 2,500 square feet or 3,000, I can't remember right offhand, so.
So my question there, Mike, is we still haven't seen the site plan for the development. So will this be a review of just part of the site plan? Because don't they have to go together? I guess that's my question. How does that work together with what's going on behind?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd love to see everything come through together, but I don't think they're on the same timelines.
They're probably wanting to get that barn moved out.
Right, so will we just approve the site plan as is with the barn moving and then work on the other later?
Yeah.
Okay.
But wasn't there a question as to whether, let's see, what was it? There was a question on the setbacks. And if they go put a barn in that affects that resolution.
the commercial setback.
Right, especially up at that north end, there was some issue there, they were cutting into the setback.
Yeah, and it'll be, so yeah, that 300-foot setback, that they'll still be in the commercial area. It won't cut into the setbacks for that home, for the nursery, or sorry, for the townhomes. Yeah, but yeah, we did allow them to encroach on this north end there.
But you're saying the barn will fit within what we said was gonna stay commercial?
Correct.
Okay.
The barn wouldn't be a part of that commercial area then.
Right.
Okay.
Well, the
Or
barn
infringe
will
on
be.
It will be
The
part
barn
That's
will
what I'm
be,
wondering.
yeah.
But is the barn part, I mean,
It's gonna be placed in the commercial area, in the commercial zone.
and is it considered commercial?
It's an accessory to the commercial use, yeah,
Okay, because it's part of the Lindon Nursery's commercial use.
yes.
Okay, okay.
So on the Norton property, when people ask, when should they expect notices? Or when do you
So,
expect those to go
They'll
out?
go out on Friday, so they'll get those probably Monday,
First of next week.
yeah.
So just the day before the meeting, though?
No.
Oh,
A week
excuse me,
before.
no, because we'll have another full week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we send them out 10 days prior to the meeting, so.
Perfect. I'll just tell them to watch for it.
You seen anything from her on the Norton property, like her?
We've got,
Yeah, she's got.
well, they were, and they are no longer applying for all 4 applications at the same time. So when they submitted their subdivision and site plan, they weren't complete. For example, they submitted for a 77 lot subdivision, but gave me a 3 lot subdivision. They didn't give me a plat for the townhomes, and so they aren't ready.
Okay.
So that's why they're gonna go through it, just petitioning for the zone change and the general plan amendment.
But that really is a big issue, though,
That's
for
gonna
that
be-
area.
That sets the stage,
Yeah, that's
for
gonna
the
be
other.
hard for people to accept when you're saying, hey, cause once you tell them we're changing the zone, then that's the step for them to get going, so they could show up here without having any idea of what the future plans are, and they're expected to say, yeah, something can go here.
Well, and
So
I
they're-
thought that was part of the ordinance that we wrote, right? Is
So
that
they'll have a
they
site
have to
plan.
have a site plan.
They'll have just like Lindon Nursery,
Right.
they'll have
Oh, okay, they will have
site
that
plan,
for
they'll
us.
have some concept renderings for the commercial buildings and the residential.
Okay.
So as far as for the zone change, that they have everything now. we reviewed their traffic study this week and with our engineering department, and so that they're ready. We're just making sure that's the night they wanna go, is March 9th.
But then they'd have to come in with a development plan prior to,
They'll still have to come back for site plan approval and subdivision approvals.
well, site plan is next time, right?
No, next time is just the zone change and general plan amendment.
Okay, good.
A plan amendment because our city transportation map has the road coming straight through.
Just to clarify in my mind again, right, so this next meeting, the zone change, is totally legislative, right, and that can be yes or no based upon whether we feel it's good for the city or.
And
you know,
you're making a recommendation to the
Right.
council.
But that's not based upon meeting code or anything at that point.
That's not.
But once that's been approved, then it's basically, if it meets code, we need to approve it after that.
Right.
Yes.
Renee
So
had a
the zone change
question,
is really the big thing.
Right.
and I told her yes, but have all the homes been acquired on State Street?
No,
Which
well,
ones aren't?
and sorry,
I think his whole.
yeah,
Healy's the only one staying?
is that the dentist?
Yeah.
Yes, he's staying, and then this corner property is staying.
Why?
The Lindstrom Heating and Air.
What about,
Ostergaard's is going, and so is,
yeah, I mean, there's the two Ostergaards, but what about the Fotheringhams that are there?
So, I
In
don't know,
this-
sorry, let me go to
So this
the,
is the Ostergaard's old home and the Ostergaard's new home. So those two are the Ostergaard homes.
they're going.
And they're going, but there's
this is,
Healy, but there's someone living back here.
this is all staying. So these
This-
three buildings are
In
all,
this home,
yeah, these are all
Okay.
staying.
that's the home I was wondering about.
They're all staying until the commercial development is.
Yeah.
No, they did not buy these
Oh.
properties,
Were they not willing to sell?
as far as I understand.
Yeah, I think Healy wasn't wanting to
He's
sell.
at the time of his life where.
Wow, I just
Yeah.
miss location. Do they wanna try again?
You never know, once development starts, sometimes things,
Yeah, it'd just be nice to have some continuity.
And the barn's coming down quick.
It'd be nice to clean up that part.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
you, I mean, you can see if you're willing to do that at this point, but as far as the commercial development on State Street?
I'm not.
Okay.
I want to present it in the staff report. I don't
Okay.
want to,
Okay,
prejudice anything, so.
okay, that's fine. And I won't say anything either then. Okay.
Is there,
Staff report will be out next Friday, so.
yeah, okay, I was just saying, if we can get the staff report as early as possible.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
So we, especially on this, because I'm guessing it'll be contentious again, just guessing from the neighborhood, that I would like time to have it all in my head really well before.
Do you want to conduct the meeting?
Next meeting, right?
I think you better make sure you're here, Sharon, because that'd be a tough one for
I know.
Steve to fill in on.
Okay, I just thought they'd like to know it was on the agenda, and that it was only the two items rather than all four.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And I think, general feeling though, is I think the time has softened neighbors. But it might rile them up again, but I think right now, everybody likes everybody again.
I have requested that the traffic engineer be here. And I've requested that, they do much of the presentation, because I feel like, I will give some general information, go through the staff report, but I think it's really up to them, that they need to help sell this and present it to the commission and answer those hard questions, so.
And so just from what you said, Mike, am I inferring correctly? You said a 77 lot subdivision, but a 3 lot, so I'm assuming there's 2 different types of properties?
Well, they need to divide off the commercial from the rest. So when they actually come through for subdivision approval, they'll do a minor subdivision to carve off the commercial, and and then they'll do a 77 lot subdivision or 76, whatever that is,
Okay.
for the townhomes and
Okay.
the single family.
And there are about, what, 5 or 6 single-family lots?
There's 4.
4, yeah, okay.
And the rest are they twin homes or the 4 and a?
There are 5 and 6 plexes, I think. Might be
Okay.
4, 5, and 6. So a group called Brighton Homes has picked that up. So they're much different renderings than what you've seen before from maybe Amy, a little more traditional. So not you know.
I liked what Amy had come up with,
So.
actually.
You don't know off the top of your head who's the principals of Brighton Homes?
I don't.
Have they done anything here before?
No, mostly in Davis and Weber. Mostly in Davis and what's the other county up there?
Weber?
Weber, I think. They've done a lot in. Well, we can look it up.
They're called Brighton Homes, huh?
Yeah. So Bountiful, North Salt Lake, Centerville, Woods Cross, Layton.
Any of those look similar to what she's trying to do?
Come on, it won't. No, I think most of their stuff they've built is rear-loaded, and these are front-loaded garages. So this is their, yeah, this is rear-loaded.
Looks like they're mostly.
So at what point do we discuss
High-density
design
housing.
standards in for this project? Because I think that's where we have an opportunity to make these a little higher end.
I guess there's some front.
Well, that would be the
Hang
site
on.
plan, wouldn't it?
I'm talking about materials used and
That'll be in site plan approval.
with site plan approval.
Mhm.
Do we have some leeway on that, or do we already have some written
Oh,
codes
it went away.
for?
In that planned residential development ordinance, we put some pretty
the
specific
pictures.
design
Nice,
standards.
Oh, yeah, it looks like good
Yeah.
quality, high end, but
Architectural
it's
design.
pretty,
Yeah,
Dense.
exterior wise.
yeah,
I
it's
think people will
dense.
be more excited about it when they see a
Which
really
doesn't
nice
bother
product.
me,
there.
but-
I think that helps to overcome some of the
Fears.
Yeah.
fears of the high density.
It looks like that's their specialty is higher density, but it looks like it's good quality stuff.
Said you'd worked with them, or
Get behind it.
knew of their product?
Just from their website is all.
Okay, okay.
They got some
Okay.
nice stuff on their website if you guys want to check it out before then. It's,
Okay.
looks like they're legit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a good suggestion. We'll watch for that staff report,
Okay.
so we can study through that.
If we can try to get it out earlier, do you want it? I mean, we can try and get it out Thursday evening if possibly, but,
Well, at
Okay.
what point can she still make changes to it, though?
Yeah, I mean, if you can get it
they've
out,
submitted their application. I've given her a deadline by tomorrow to make any changes.
Oh.
So that I can, no, I apologize, I'm getting mixed up. I've given her till
Next Tuesday? Next
Monday
Wednesday?
for any changes, so the staff report can go out that Friday.
I mean, just for me with how busy I am, the sooner the better,
Okay.
because I don't have a lot of free time. So,
We'll see what we can pull off.
It's gonna go beautifully. We have positive attitude. Everybody's gonna be open-minded, conciliatory. It's gonna be great.
Sure.
Keep telling yourself that, Renee.
Sure.
I mean, I'm sure that your neighborhood has had a time and they've started to consider it, and they're letting it simmer, right? And so it's not as shocking.
Yeah, that's
as-
probably a good thing.
well, right, and I think that part's gone. I think and I'll just say as a resident myself, I still struggle with something this dense in Lindon. I mean, that's just, and I think there's a bunch that do. You know, we're trading off something that, in my opinion, should have never been a deep commercial lot. The Lindon Nursery, I can see it was a deep commercial lot. They used it for commercial purposes. I think that's gonna be the hard feeling, right, is that this really should have never been a deep commercial lot. And so to then allow that many homes to go in, that's gonna be the heartache. And I think that heartache still exists. You know, I know it's still within me is a tearing point. If they'd cut that in half, you know, and put.
What is their density they're talking?
10 units to the acre.
The ordinance.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure they'll maximize it. That's what everybody would do, right? I mean, that's, so. I know there's still a lot of heartburn about that because of the backstory of this piece of property, but.
Well, they
Major
need to let their
backstory.
voices be heard if they're still having a lot of issues with it then.
So.
And one thing, don't feel pressure to, you know, if it's a good application and you feel like it's supportive, then yeah, make a recommendation, but don't feel pressure that you have to pass something the first night. You know, take time to consider things. You know, you know, make sure you're making the correct decisions on everything, so.
The only other thing I had was that you sent us that article today, and I didn't get that all read through. I wondered if you wanted to just give us a quick summary of that, and we ought to take time to read it too, but how housing next to
Gardner
high
report.
density, how that affects.
I think it basically, they looked at, from 2010 to 2019, I believe it was, they looked at property values within a half-mile radius of high-density projects, and for the most part, I believe, home values increased, anywhere from 8 to 10%. I think there's some holes, just a little bit, you know, because a lot of these are going into older neighborhoods where, you know, that are being rejuvenated or redeveloped and things that, you know, it'd be interesting to know about, you know, the gentrification, is that forcing people out of these older neighborhoods and things, but at least the study they did at looking at lots of projects in Salt Lake County was that within a half mile, your property values actually, single family home property values increased around high density.
But really, it was mostly focused on and assuming that you were in almost a redevelopment situation, because it'd be like coming into the heart of Lindon and doing a project, because that area was all pretty much developed. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it was-
so,
So they're ahead of our curve. We're not really dealing, we're still trying to fill properties that have never had anything built on them yet, but the way things are coming, we might be in that boat in a few years.
Yeah,
Right.
after 700 North, you know,
Yeah.
Lindon kind of enters that redevelopment
Yeah.
stage, and
Mhm.
So,
It was a single focus of just home values. It didn't talk about any of the other negative impacts of density,
No, it was
like
strict, it
increased
seemed, what I read
crime,
most of
things
it
like
seemed
that.
like it was mostly property values of single
Mostly
family.
property values, and I thought it was
And
interesting.
that's because that's the biggest argument, and that's been the age-old thing for ever since I've been
Yeah.
around, that, oh, it's gonna affect my property values, and if you take their report to heart, it really doesn't.
It does, and I thought it was interesting how if you put apartments here, that eventually the people in the apartments want to move out, and it makes the homes, the single-family homes around the apartment more attractive. I thought that was an interesting concept, but like I said, it didn't cover increased crime rates, traffic, it didn't cover, it didn't cover all the other
Strictly
negative effects.
property valuations. I think
Yeah.
they took on the biggest argument that ever comes up in these meetings. I think it came up on
yes.
on Norton property. Oh, it's gonna affect my property values,
And I guess my question there, and I didn't have time to digest the article or anything, but what's the time frame? Because I think most people think, well, when they're new and look great, I don't think it probably
Exactly
does
right.
increase the property value. But let's say 15, 20 years from now,
Yeah, they did.
having that product next to your home, especially if it's not well maintained, that's when I think that starts to affect your property values. I've lived in an area where there were some that were probably great when they started, but now haven't been kept up, and the people that have perpetually lived in there, right, as the good people move out, and I mean, that's very stereotypical, I gotta be careful, but it became a drag on the neighborhood as they got older, where when they first got built, they were great. I mean, they added, but I think the opposite, if you look at Green Valley, I don't think those have had that effect, right? I don't think the Green Valley condos have had that degrading effect, because they've been kept up and the people who move into them are nice. So I can see it going both ways. It's just, a lot of it depends on, are there, what type of HOA is there? How is it kept up? Because if it's left to go down, I think that's something the article didn't address, at least from what I could see, is what happens 20 years from now.
Well, it did though address, the period of time when we came through the crash in 07, 08, and there was product that was sitting unfinished until 2010, that there were some not quite as good a valuations, sitting around stuff that was half finished and whatnot. But,
Like Midtown?
yeah, Midtown would be an example of that.
Right.
And really, I think if our focus is keeping the quality standards up and the nicety, I mean, you can go just over to American Fork, not on 5th East, but in back of 5th East, there are some projects have been built in there that will show some.
Dilapidation.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But
know
that's
exactly what
where
you're talking
design
about,
standards
too.
come in.
Right.
And our materials, thankfully, there's lots of good materials that weather and age nicely nowadays that keep things looking nicer.
Right.
And these, this is a price point. These townhomes are gonna have a price point with them. And people are gonna expect some upgrade look and feel for paying that price.
Yeah.
Well, these will be a higher,
I would,
higher than
everything
the
we've looked
ones
at with
behind Lindon
Amy
Nursery.
Yeah, it's higher end.
and this Brighton Home site looks like they're into the high end part of it.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
by the time they get them built, might be a $500,000.
The ones back behind Lindon Nursery won't be as nice.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Okay,
crazy.
well, unless you have anything else,
Yeah,
Mike?
if I could just, sorry, let me.
Mike, I was trying to get you out of here and you just keep adding on and adding
Sorry,
on.
I was just gonna, show you one thing really quick, because this will affect what we need to do in the future. Well, let me just talk about it. Can't find the email. Oh, .org, you're right, so thank you. Sorry, it's gonna send me a text. Where is it? So just on Utah League of Cities and Towns, so HB 82. So what this is, the league, after the fourth submittal, the league has come out basically in support of this bill because it was going to get rammed down the city's throats. So this is what they've negotiated. So in 75% of the areas zoned residential in most cities, we will have to allow by permitted use internal accessory apartments.
So really, that shouldn't affect us, should it?
That's
It
already
shouldn't.
being allowed.
What will affect our ordinance is we can only require one parking stall. Let's see, one off-site parking, let's see, no separate meter. We can require egress of windows. If they're on a septic tank, we can limit it. We can deny it for lots under 6,000 square feet. We can't regulate the square footage, so we'll have to, and bedrooms, so we'll have to amend our ordinance for that. So there's some things we're gonna have to go through our ordinance. So that will affect, the new Ivory development where we've prohibited accessory apartments. They will be allowed to do accessory apartments down there now.
Unless are any of those lots under 6,000 feet?
Like the cottages that they're doing, those are under 6,000, the townhomes, but all the new single family.
Single family would probably, be
Yeah.
more like a 8,000 average.
And even if their HOA doesn't allow that now, they can't do that.
They'll be allowed to do it under state law,
Yeah,
so,
okay.
under
That
this
would
one.
override their HOA?
Yes,
Yeah, it's gonna be a rub some places.
so,
Yeah, because those lots are so tiny and
Some of them are
parking
really
and
small.
everything.
Like the 55 plus section's really small. They have like a 10-foot backyard in them.
yeah, those
The
will,
55 plus section.
that's probably the section that, I think those might be about 5,000 square foot lots. There may be a few lots in there that would be allowed, but for the most part, I think most of those are prohibited.
But I'll tell you what, I don't know about you guys' areas, but we were here a few years ago, I was complaining that we were losing all of our good old time neighbors to surrounding towns. We've got 2 or 3 people, families or more my age in my ward area that are actually moving down in there just to get a smaller lot.
I ran into a gentleman who lives off Locust just yesterday. He just moved down there into one of the 55 pluses.
Yeah,
And he's super excited about it.
yeah.
So if a 55 plus subdivision can have an apartment,
I don't,
If they're,
that be rented
that
to a
wouldn't be my
55 and
choice.
older.
down by the
So-
freeway.
Ivory's marketing it as 55 and older, but
Right,
you
they're
don't really
making it
have to be
nice.
55 and older.
Yeah, there are quite a few families going in that area.
Yeah, that,
Young families are going in.
that product sold like crazy for them,
Yeah, it just disappeared.
yeah.
Yeah, they just recently had released another section that we approved not too long ago, and there was bidding wars on the lots. They went for $10,000 to $60,000 more than Ivory was asking for them
Yeah,
That's kind of the way it is everywhere right
for
now.
the little postage stamp lots.
so this doesn't affect us much, but the billboard companies are saying if you allow digital billboards in your commercial zones, then you have to allow, if you allow digital signs in your commercial zones, then you have to allow billboards to be digital. And so this is a bill that's got a lot of attention up there right now as well. That doesn't affect like our state street, 'cause we don't allow digital signs.
For anyone.
And we don't have any billboards, I don't think, on State Street anyways, but, I think that's it. I think I've already spoken about this one, but each commissioner will have to have 4 hours of training per year. If you attend 12 meetings per year, that counts as 1 hour. If if you watch some, the Utah League of Cities and Towns videos, that counts for another hour. Your open meetings training counts for an hour. Before a commissioner can participate in a meeting, they have to go through an orientation with the city and stuff,
Yeah.
but we do that anyways already, so.
So how is that tracked, or what do our
We'll just
choices-
have to track it with staff. If you watch a video, you have to let us know and things, so. And we'll probably do a lot of that during our meetings.
Yeah, are you gonna send us some resources, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, like this that Adam sent out, you
Yeah,
know,
that's
Need a
like
pay raise.
HR administrative.
does that count as training?
No,
It has to be, they give you a list
Okay,
of,
that was like HR administrative for the city,
okay.
compliance.
yeah, I don't
It
think
doesn't
I've
count
got
as
it here, but
commissioner training then,
No, but we're employees of the city, so.
yeah, yeah.
there's a whole list of, it's like conditional use permits, zone changes. Yeah, there's like 6 items or 8 items you're trained on, so.
So if you were to, well, I don't know when they'll be able to hold them in person again, but if you were to go to a day of one of the planning conferences, that would
Get
take
your
care
4
of that.
hours right there.
Yeah, okay,
Yep. So,
okay.
that's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay. And Councilman Vanchery, do you have anything for us?
Very quickly, on the 17th, a week ago tomorrow, we had our first budget kickoff meeting. And as all of you know, that's a Christmas smorgasbord list of what everybody wants or says that they need.
Yeah.
And as you also probably well know, during the heart of the pandemic, we had the 2 best sales tax collection periods that we've ever had. And the other 2 quarters were as good as we've had in other times. The legislature, I think it's come out of committee, but we now have the option of we will have the option of going from a 25% of the general fund balance for a rainy day fund. I think right now we're at about between 23 and 25. That will allow us to go up to 35% of the general fund balance. We have not really discussed that yet in detail because it hasn't.
It will be allowed.
It will be allowed.
Mhm.
And what was interesting is I talked to Orem's Public Works Director today, and he said Orem's internal policy is a 15% reserve. So I thought that was interesting. You probably are aware that we paid the bond off on the public safety building. It was a 15-year bond. We paid it off in 4 years, 4 months,
Great.
and 4 days. So that's paid off. They presented us with a 3-year wish list, if you will, for street improvements and utility improvements and different pieces of equipment. So as the weeks go by, that list will be pared down. Right now, Kristen is just looking at the request versus what the projected budget is, and then she'll come back and say, this will work, this won't work. So, yeah.
What, when the temple is built, what will happen to Center Street? I mean, is that something the church is going to participate in, or?
No. If I understand it correctly, and I don't want to give too much, but they did present a 3-year plan. If I understand it correctly, the year 1 is going to be utility improvements, probably upgrading deteriorated utilities will be upgraded, replaced, or whatever. Year 2, if I recall correctly, is sidewalk curbs and gutters.
But that's on the city? The
Yes.
city's choosing to do that without?
Well, it's not that it hasn't been done for a long time.
And that's mostly on that south side then,
Yes.
isn't it?
And then on year 3, I think the plan is to, then pave it and improve it, make it, nice and smooth.
You know, down in Arizona, where the Gilbert Temple was built, the church paid several $1 million to bury transmission lines. And so that they weren't in front of the temple.
I mean, yeah, the temple's not a revenue generating
No.
business, so for us to expend a whole
I
bunch
just
of money
didn't
to
know
put it
whether
there.
they would participate in improving Center Street to make it the access point for the temple.
That is the only access point.
It's going to be, it sounds like.
We did ask and they said no.
They did.
You can't get a pedestrian bridge or a.
I'm sure you asked.
I won't say who or which entity, but the church was negotiating with a public entity to get access.
Yeah, I think we all know who that
It was
is.
denied, and I guess one of the church building people jokingly said, I don't think they know who they're dealing with when you're talking about the church. So that was just a little bit of an aside.
They do whatever they need to do to get things done and done right. Has been.
Accommodate, right?
Mhm.
They're gonna fast track it, is what I'm told, in 2023, sometime in the beginning of 23. And then just a little side note, this is more interesting and relevant, but I got a call from a citizen on a property that is at the northeast corner of Canal Drive and 300 North, where the guy stacks all the wood and everything, and it's getting to the point where it was very unsightly, and it looked more like an industrial place. So Mike was kind enough to, and Andrews, and then Officer Clint went out there
Mhm.
and informed him that he didn't have a business home use permit for that, so supposedly he's going to be cleaning that up.
Where is that at?
Right across to the east of the Canal building, the church building.
Okay, yeah,
But again, it's kind of on the corner of Canal and 300 North,
okay,
sitting on that northeast corner there.
yeah.
So that was, so I guess Officer Clegg was nice, and the guy was cooperative, and just said, yeah, we'll take care of it, just so you know.
What about the house on Center Street? That's southwest kitty corner from the Center Street church building.
Well, they made a lot of improvements
Partially
going to the police
finished,
station.
lots of wood,
They put up
lots of
some fencing,
vehicles.
Park strip.
It's on Center
I mean,
Street and
kids
about
Paid all that,
650
or the church paid for that?
north or east.
I'd have to drive by and look at that one.
Talk to.
Will you email me that address?
Yeah, I will when I drive home. I'll drive by. It's so, it's such an anomaly. I just,
Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about, yeah, they've got all those old trees cut down
and
big logs or whatever.
yeah,
stumps.
I didn't know what the circumstances were and something we could do to help them.
Suffice it to say, we're extremely blessed as a city, not only to have that extra money, I think it's like $215,000 a year, that we don't have to make a debt service payment on the public safety building. And with the existing and projected, we're really sitting in a good position.
Mike, did you look at the detail of revenue by business? I gotta believe Murdoch Hyundai's in the top 3 now, aren't they?
Yeah, Kristen discussed that briefly, but obviously Walmart and Home Depot. But I was surprised at some of the other, our industrial businesses over on the
Yeah.
west side
I'm sure.
seem to be making a lot more inroads, especially since they started
Those truss
charging
plants.
sales
Yeah.
tax now.
Oh, yeah.
And doTERRA has jumped up to one of the top
Good.
Yeah,
7 or 8. I
But
believe.
where, do you, just guess where does Murdoch Hyundai?
They're either 3 or 4.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But do we get the doTERRA?
We do.
Yeah.
Only
we get
from
our share of
The
it.
warehouse, for the
No,
warehouse.
letting them do that warehouse gave us point of sales for all of Utah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, POS for Utah.
For the one down by the freeway.
Yeah.
But they're not using they're still got their office park for sale though, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, they
right.
were supposed to come through 6 months ago with a subdivision for that, and they've just never done it, so they wanted to try and sell the office building.
But allowing the warehouse gave us point of sale on all of Utah, which
That's
is.
significant.
Mhm.
Just one other quick thing is our park tax. We're in the 6th year, going into the 7th, and it sunsets at 10 years. So we discussed, oh, was it 8? Yeah, 8, so we're coming up close. So there was a plea from the mayor and from Adam that we all get out and become cheerleaders. It's 1/10 of 1%, and it's virtually transparent. I mean, I've never heard anyone complain about it, but it brings in about $620,000 a year for
Improvements,
improvements and park-related things, which we use.
right.
Yeah, they've made a lot of improvements the last couple of years.
So that'll be forthcoming, is just, getting out and try to support people to support the park tax.
But it isn't just for parks, it's also for arts and recreation
It is.
and that type of thing,
Yeah,
isn't
but again,
it?
if I understand it correctly, it's just for infrastructure. Is that right, Mike?
Like you can do additional amenities, I mean, you can do pretty much anything.
Yeah,
with that.
yeah, I don't think you
Yeah.
can use it for like administrative and.
Right.
No, but I just remember a couple of concerts they had, like one over in Dr. College's castle, and it was sponsored, it was put on by Lindon City, and they said it was through the park tax, that they
Sure,
were able to
Heath
get
is on
bigger.
it like a pit bull on a poodle.
What's that?
I said Heath is on it like a pit bull on a
He
poodle.
wants it.
He keeps very close tabs with it. So,
That's great.
all right, thank you.
All right, let's go home. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Okay, do I have a second?
Oh, yeah. I'll second that.
Renee? Okay. Well, thank you so much to Mike for being here, and Mike and Anders for all you did for tonight. And thanks for helping me understand that hillside thing, so I didn't have so many questions tonight. I tell him, okay, now you know how to explain it to the commission.
Yeah, right.
Because you
That worked out
learned
fine.
how to explain it to me.
Let's wait and turn that off and.
Do you know which lot that is, Renee, over there?
Yeah, I did. I drove by it.
Yeah, oh,
Give me one sec.
it seems like you're gonna spend a
Emailing
lot
or
of
messaging with Kathy real quick on some.
Just getting a lot.